Welcome back to the Right Wave Audio community. My name is John, and for this video, we will talk about the latest Quadio box set from Rhino. And if you've watched this channel, you've seen me with the original Quadio box set. That one was from Chicago with the first 8 albums plus the greatest hits CD, so for a total of 8 CDs in Quadraphonics. And with the 50th anniversary of the Doobie Brothers, Rhino had introduced in September of 2020 the Doobie Brothers Quadio box set. Now this one isn't as large. It only has the 4 of the early albums. The first album, the self-titled Doobie Brothers, was not in Quadraphonics. They did not record it, but each of the other early albums, the second, third, fourth, and fifth albums, were done in Quadraphonics. Now, these were not added later, but they were done at the time that these albums were recorded. Now, like Chicago, that also recorded them in the same way, that these were not afterthoughts. When you think about some of the other quadraphonic releases, such as, let's say, the Doors' greatest hits or Creedence Clearwater Revival's greatest hits, where they added the quadraphonics after the effect, these were original mixes. Now, don't be confused, though. The original recordings, what you'll see is on the stereo albums may have had, in some cases, a different, they were edited differently. So it's not just that it's a difference between 2 and 4 channels, but some of the songs are actually edited differently. So somebody that's really familiar with the group and really familiar with the songs will not only hear things differently, but you'll hear different things in the mix that you may not be able to hear in the stereo mix. So these are special. And when I think about all the streaming that we have available to us now, with Apple getting into CD quality and better streaming, Amazon with CD quality or better streaming capabilities, when do you actually need to get physical media? Well, I think it's in times where you have something special like these 2 releases, where you have a quadraphonic mix or a 5.1 mix or an Atmos mix that are not available yet on those streaming services. Now, they could very well introduce them, but the here and now is, if you want to get the original playbacks of Chicago and Doobie Brothers in the original 4-channel mix, you got to go to the physical formats. So this is available today. I purchased this directly from Rhino. You can get it as of today for just under $51 US. I think the shipping was modest there, and I could not find it at a lower price or elsewhere. Maybe you can, but it's a pretty, to get 4 albums for $60, that's a good deal, and these are special. And these are done on Blu Ray, 192/24. These are DTS-HD Master audio formats. Now, even my vintage Sony TAE 9000 ES processor can decode the 4-channel mix. So from the Blu Ray, I have this streaming out the coax port, received by the receiver. Now it's not doing 192 because the processor is only capable of, I think, 48 kilohertz. So that's what it will handle it as, not the full 192. But when I upgrade the processor, we'll get the full 192 bit capability. And so this is, what's great about these is you don't need special equipment. Most of us have a Blu Ray player. If you have a home theater system, you're going to have at least 4 channels. Now, with the the quadraphonic mixes that are on these, it is only 4 channels. It doesn't make use of the center channel, and it doesn't have an LFE output. But it doesn't mean to say that you can't make use of bass management, and if you have subwoofers, as we do now, we can direct those frequencies, lower frequencies, to the subwoofer. So that will be handled, but don't expect an LFE channel, and there's no center channel with these two formats. These are mixed exactly how they were back in the early 70s. So what do you get on the Doobie Brothers set? Now, I wasn't a Doobie Brothers fan before buying this, to be honest with you. These contain a lot of songs you hear on the radio all the time. And so I didn't feel like I needed to go out and buy these myself because you hear it so often. But the fact that this was a quadraphonic mix, and I enjoyed the Chicago one already so much, I felt, let's give this a try. In fact, maybe I'll learn more about the group and their deeper cuts on the album and appreciate them more. And that's exactly what happened. So on these are the 4 albums. So as I said, the first album was the self-titled one, is not included, but that's generally not as popular recording, only for the deepest fans. But it starts with Toulouse Street from 1972, which was their first quadraphonic CD, and then goes on to the third release from 1973, Captain and Me, which I understand is also available in 5.1, but that is something that was derived later on, once 5-channel was available. The third disc is from 1974, which is What Were Once Were Vices Are Now Habits, which is my favorite of the set. And the fourth disc, which is their 5th album from April of 1975, is Stampede. So the artwork is reproduced on these. I won't open up this because this one's a little disturbing inside for my own taste. But these are gatefold. It's got in here the sleeve like you would have on a big LP record. It has a reproduction of what the quadraphonic system was. And when these were released, this was using Quadro sound. This was the JVC RCA version of Quadraphonics. And if you're familiar with Quadraphonics, there were many competing formats. So first of all, you had derived formats, which we call 222. So it was recorded in stereo. It was, just the normal, what you got off of the record stores, the 2-channel records, the 2-channel playback, but then using special matrix equipment would derive the rear channels from the stereo. So nothing special there. It was kind of a fake out. My dad had one of these, the Dynaco Quadapter. It was a passive device that would take kind of like out of phase information and put it to the rear speakers. Then you had matrix formats, which were recorded in 4 channels, distributed on LPs that were 2 channels, so you could use the normal, I believe the normal needle, but they were then demuxed with a special equipment to 4 channels from there. And those were known as, the 2 formats were QS, quadraphonic sound, and SQ, stereo quadraphonic. But then there's the discrete 4-channel, and this is the best because there wasn't as lost of information, and the discrete is really what you want to be at. And so that was recorded 4-channel, distributed on LP that had 4 channels. Could have been tape in all these cases as well, reel-to-reel tape. But let's just stick the more common format, which was LP. It was a 4-channel LP, and then sending out to 4 speakers, so 444. So this Quadro disc was also known as CD-4. And what happened was they would take the rear channel information and put it above 30 kilohertz, and then they would have to then reintegrate that information above 30 kilohertz at the right frequencies for the rear channels. So that's how that worked. I mean, I'm not really doing this justice, but that's how it worked. And what they wanted to do with this, is for the homeowner to have is rear speakers that were ideally the same as your front. So you had as good a quality speakers in the rear as you do on the front. Most surround sound systems have a smaller surround speaker, although in our case, we got pretty well matched, fairly large rear surrounds, including our Polk LSI M703s, which aside from being a full tower, are very similar to our fronts, which are the LSI 15s, tonally. So I think there we've got a good chance on the playback. And they wanted you to sit equidistant between the front and the rear speakers. And so that's how you would be wanting to listen. I believe the sweet spot was very small. They wanted you to sit kind of in the dead center of the room to really experience this in the best way. So to get to the short of this, the experience that I got from listening from particularly, and I'll get the disc that I really like out of here, the Once Were Vices Are Now Habits album, I think is amazing. And this is not like a lot of the 5.1 mixes that aim to put you in the audience and hear the reflections of the concert hall or what have you. This is more like you're in the studio or sitting on stage with the band. You're hearing, and some people may not like this, but I find it exciting, thrilling. And the instruments are very clear. This is a very well done quadraphonics mix. And you can hear the guitars very clearly. Something might be starting in the front right speaker. And then you hear Tom Johnson's voice come in, who was the lead singer during this period. This was not the Michael McDonald period of the Doobie Brothers. This is Tom Johnson, who later rejoined back in the band once he was feeling better in 1989, picking up where Michael McDonald left off. But this is a classic period in the group. And you'd hear his voice in a phantom center. So you don't need the center channel, but you hear him kind of a phantom center. And then all of a sudden, in the left rear of the room, I hear the backup singers and I hear other elements. And when you're listening to this one in particular, and I've got it up behind me, certain cuts on here, like Black Water, for example, the wind chimes or whatever you call it, and it's so clear and it's coming from areas that you wouldn't actually. And this is hearing these songs that you've heard over time and time again on the radio, maybe even in your own system, sounding fresh and new again. And that's amazing to reveal all that. And you don't need full Atmos on this, but still you get the immersive feeling. So very, very happy with this collection. And I've become a fan, not just because of the way this album was recorded, but I can respect them now more as musicians, because you can hear them in a critical listening type environment versus just hearing it in your car. And it brings out a new appreciation for the group and the care they took with the writing of the songs, the recording of them, and how they were distributed and put out in the day using Quadradisc from the RCA format. So I recommend getting either collection, the Chicago one or the Doobie Brothers Quadio, and I hope they come out more in this series, and we'll certainly be looking out for them. So with that said, what's your feeling about quadraphonic sound versus 5.1 mixes that are available? And of course, multi-channel audio is not so common to find. You know, are you simply happy hearing two-channel mixes, you know, listening through streaming? Or do you seek out, like I do, some of these special multi-channel mixes, such as these original quadraphonic mixes? That feedback would be useful to the Ripewave audio community. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to this Ripewave audio community and hit the bell icon so you'll be notified the next time a video is posted. Until then, keep evolving your audio experience.